Cheers, guys. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the self. You've heard this a million times, that it all comes through the self. Well, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to read a little success story that I think illustrates this point fairly well. And then I'm also going to talk about, because in recent videos I've talked about how it's really a lot of self-concept work is unblocking or undoing faulty programming. There are faulty beliefs. It's just like a computer. It's a good analogy to use a computer, because if you have viruses, if you have malware, if you have an outdated operating system, in trying to install the new operating system on top of that is not very effective. There's going to be conflicting things. There's still bad actors on your hardware device. So we're going to get to all of this. And the only thing before I read the success story that I want to touch on is everybody latches on to Neville Goddard's teachings. They latch onto them with such a tight grip that I really think that you, by doing that, you're putting your power outside of yourself. So by making somebody like Neville or the law, or even if it's some other teacher that you're following, by making them or their teaching your God, now you've abdicated your power. You said, okay, I'm going to give this the power. So whenever people are like the law, and you in speaking in these terms, everybody relates to this stuff differently, but it never really resonates very well with me, because you're putting all of it in this teaching, in these words that this guy said, who was just one guy. If you study Neville Goddard, if you really study Neville Goddard, if you go to any of these YouTube channels, you will know that Neville Goddard was a New Thought author. There were many other New Thought authors of the time. Some common ones that you may know of are Joseph Murphy, Earl Nightingale, Florence Scovel Shinn, Wallace D. Wattles, Napoleon Hill. These are some of the common names, but there were many. If you go to Wikipedia, you will find at least 50 authors that were of this same type of thing. And Neville and Joseph both acknowledged this guy Abdullah as their mentor. But Abdullah was teaching them, and they were, Joseph Murphy still talks about action. They still have different takes on these ideas, right? Even though Neville and Joseph both had the same teacher, they still came away with their own experience and their own ideas about things. And so did all of these different New Thought teachers. I've read As a Man Thinketh on this channel by James Allen, who is another New Thought teacher. And if you are open to hearing other people's perspectives that come from the same line of thought, it's basically the idea of New Thought is that we are all God pushed out. We are all extensions of this God source energy. And the more that we allow that energy to work through us, the more success we'll have in manifesting our desired results, because now we're not blocking off that source of energy. Neville has one very dogmatic way of describing these things, whereas a lot of these other teachers come about it in a more nuanced approach, or they offer simply more practical advice. Like I've been reading, there's different Florence. I've been reading Florence Scovel Shinn and Wallace D. Wattles lately, and both of them speak in a lot more plain English, and they basically deliver these concepts in a way that's a lot easier and more practical to understand, in my opinion. Again, not to hate on Neville Goddard, but the thing is that a lot of these ideas, why is it that people struggle with them so much, is oftentimes because the way that he wrote about them, the way that he talks about them is confusing. It confuses people, because the logical mind, it's like, in order to get behind the Neville type approach, you have to like completely get rid of your logical mind, and you can't ever do that really. If it works for you, that's fine. But if you still struggle, you're going to want to take an approach that acknowledges the role of your logical mind, because you could never get rid of your logical mind. Even people that are like able to suspend their disbelief, get on board with it, or your logical mind at some point has to be on your side, or else it's going to be fighting, which is going to cause resistance, which is going to block these things from happening. But I'm going to read this story now, and we're going to talk about how we can do that. And so it'll all tie together. So the self-concept was the key for me. This is some motivation to maybe help some people who feel stuck after consistently doing their affirmations over and over again, seeing nothing change. Reminder, there's always movement. I've been studying the law for 3 years. I can manifest some things instantly, like money, some people conforming, etc. But certain things feel like they would not come through. They just wouldn't come through. Recently, I randomly got ghosted by someone who I definitely did not expect to ghost me. We did not have a single argument. He did not show a single sign he would ghost me. Even his friends were shocked, saying this behavior is so out of character for him. When I tell you I crashed out, I started affirming like crazy. He misses me. He's texting me, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. That made me go even crazier in my head. What was I doing wrong? The law never fails me. I always manifest so fast, so why is it with people I always care about, they always leave me? This always happens? Wait. This always happens. This always happens. When I tell you guys, I legitimately ascended to another planet when that clicked for me. No wonder he ghosted me for no reason. No wonder every close friendship I have had in the past has left me. No wonder every relationship has ghosted me. I had such a deep-rooted belief that I didn't even realize I had. All of a sudden, this SP dropped on my priority list. I became number one. He was legit all I thought about for the last 2 weeks, and now all I can focus on is myself and my self-concept. The point is, maybe if you aren't seeing movement or you feel stuck, maybe dig a little deeper. You might not realize it like I did, but you might have a deeper rooted belief about yourself and that you don't even realize. Sure, I can sit here and say, SP texted me and misses me. Sure, he can come back, but who is to say he won't ghost me again? It all makes sense. I hope this helps. I feel so much better now. I'm affirming new affirmations for my self-concept, such as I'm always chosen, nobody ever leaves me, I'm always wanted, and people from my past are coming back that I haven't spoken to in years. This is so crazy. Give it a try. Happy manifesting. So somebody asked, thank you. Can you tell me what you did to upgrade your self-concept? Like what affirmations, what routine and techniques? The OP said, I said the affirmations in my post, but I'll say it again for you here. I literally just told myself over and over again, I'm always chosen. Nobody ever leaves me. Stuff like that. You have to choose what you need to work on. So for example, if you are always getting cheated on, instead of manifesting and affirming that your SP isn't cheating on you, manifest you are always chosen and wanted. Focus on yourself instead of them. Okay. Somebody asked if this actually brought the SP back. They said it brought back movement. I have his friends telling me he can't stop talking about me, but I refuse to be the first one to text. Ha ha, I'm stubborn like that. He'll make the first move because I said so. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is going into, what are your limiting beliefs? This person clearly has that belief. They found it. They found the belief. It was, this always happens, right? Why does this always happen to me? The people I always care about always leave me. That was the bottleneck for them. If you were to go, if you go and do in my free ebook, which is linked in the description, do the exercises in there, you will find and identify whatever that belief is for you. For a lot of people, it's something around the idea of not being good enough. For this person, like that can coincide with people always leave, abandonment issues, just feeling like you're not important enough. You don't have enough things to contribute to say. You're not providing value. You're not a worthwhile person. These are all kinds of common things that I hear, common things that you run into when you really get to the heart of the belief, because there's the process in the book takes you down the thoughts that you have, and you go down, it's like a tree branch to get to the root core belief. right? So when they did this, right, they hit this with the affirmations, the opposite affirmations, which I also talk about. I have all this outlined in my book, The Robotic Affirmation Code, for how to affirm. But sometimes it can work. Sometimes you can just affirm it away. The thing is that sometimes these beliefs are so deep rooted that it's really nice to have a process, such as the one in my Limiting Beliefs book. Also, going to somebody who will take you through a guided meditation or a hypnosis, it's been effective. It's always been effective. The godfather of robotic affirmations, which people used to call it autosuggestion, Emile Coué, was a hypnotist. And what he prescribed people, that every day and every way I'm getting better and better, is a hypnotic suggestion. And when you use hypnotic suggestions, either on yourself, or what's even more effective is if you go and see somebody to do this for you, they can take you through a process where you literally dissolve that belief. So this works for a lot of people. It's worked for a lot of people throughout time. Celebrities have used hypnosis, and there's a lot of case studies, lots of success stories. Getting back to the beginning of this video about the idea that it has to be in this Neville law type of way, is that it trips people up because they the fact of it having to be a certain way is what can cause resistance, right? Emile Coué, I'm getting better in every day. That's process oriented. That's a process oriented affirmation. It's a hypnotic suggestion that your mind can't argue against. Your logical mind cannot fight against it. It's pretty much impossible, because if you look around and your logical mind is like, oh, well, what's the evidence against this? Well, I guess there's really not that much evidence. There are certain things that could be getting better. Maybe I feel a little bit better today than I did yesterday, or maybe this thing in my life is better. So it doesn't put up this resistance. But when you try to go for this very dogmatic approach that the law recommends, your logical mind will come in with all kinds of things to say, that's not true. You try to tell yourself that your SP is here with you right now, it's going to be like, no, that's not true. You try to tell yourself that you have chiseled six-pack abs and you look in the mirror, you're going to be like, no, that's not true. If you can get there, if your logical mind just is like, isn't putting up resistance to this, then that's great. Then the Neville style stuff can work for you. But for the vast majority of people, doing an Emile Coué style approach, which is a process oriented affirmation, is going to work a lot better. Telling yourself, I'm becoming more and more fit. My money is increasing every single day. My wealth is increasing. My YouTube subscribers are growing exponentially every day. Instead of being like, I have 1 million YouTube subscribers. Because your logical mind, again, you get what I'm saying. So the thing is if you're having trouble with this, live from the end, see from the end, only exist from the wish fulfilled type thinking, all of these other New Thought teachers that I talked about at the beginning, they talk about putting out your mental imaging, using creative visualization, using affirmations, and then I took some notes here. Let's see. Forming these mental pictures and working toward the realization of this vision. That is the practical way to bring about your manifestations that your logical mind will get on board with, where you can literally manifest things without running into so much resistance. You see yourself as a successful writer or YouTuber or business owner. You see yourself as a personality of power. You see yourself as an advancing person, and you begin to work towards the realization of this vision. And the more that you entertain that, the more that you see yourself, this is the thing, you can see yourself in this reality. You can see yourself amongst, Vadim Zeland calls them decorations, but see yourself in a nice, beautiful environment. See yourself as though you'd carry yourself. See yourself from this type of way that Neville describes, but do not try to force yourself to believe that you are really living in that existence right now, because your mind is going to fight you on it. See yourself as that version of yourself that's calm with the 100,000 subscribers, with the $1 million, with the SP of your dreams. See yourself as the person that is able to attain that, but the person that is on the path there, the person who this path is unfolding to. And when you embody and embrace this process-oriented approach, your logical mind just is not going to fight you so much. And so this is something that everyone's going to disagree with, or not everyone, but certain people disagree with this, right? That you have many people talking about the definitiveness of the law, which is just something that Neville coined, a term, law of assumption, when literally every other New Thought teacher, like I said, whether it's Florence, whether it's Joseph Murphy, whether it's Wallace D. Wattles, whether it's Earl Nightingale, whether it's Napoleon Hill, I could go on, right? If you look up on Wikipedia, like I told you, there's like 50 to 100 of these people, men and women, that all wrote about these same types of ideas. Literally every single other one of them is using this process-oriented approach. They're acknowledging like action. And even if you dive deep enough into Neville, he does acknowledge action. There's certain things in certain places and you have to go and find them. And certain people will try to disagree, right? Because everything's open to interpretation. But in my book, I talk about Wu Wei, which is this idea of effortless action. It's this idea that, and Joseph Murphy talks about this as well, the reverse law. So Joseph Murphy talks about you're taking action, but without this efforting. And Emile Coué also talks about this, that the will and the imagination will beat the will. But if you can use the reverse law, he talks about this as well, while you're taking the action, then you've got that effortless action, you've got that Wu Wei, and things are unfolding in this way that is, like I said, much more effortless without the struggling and the straining. Now, the other thing is to acknowledge with this conversation about the self-concept, is that you are a divine being. Neville talks about this. All of the New Thought teachers talk about this. So if you're a follower of Neville, you might as well get on board with this idea. You are God's horse energy, and you are an individualized expression of it. So the more that you get out of the way, that is, the more that you do this self-concept work to unblock those bottlenecks that is flowing, and so that this energy is just flowing unabated without any blocking, now you're going to get those intuitive nudges. I don't like the term inspired action. It doesn't resonate with me. But you're going to get intuitive nudges so that you take action. You take aligned action. I prefer that term. And now, whatever it is that you want, see, this is where people take issue with this too, because you want to control everything. The Neville style approach is like, I'm the God and I'm going to make everyone conform. This more relaxed approach that some of these other New Thought teachers talk about is that this source is flowing through you. It knows what is right for you because it is you. And so the more that you get out of its way, things will happen and the bridge of events will naturally unfold to your best outcome. And it might not be what your logical mind thinks. It might not be that particular SP that you have been hung up on that you think you need. It might be that what needs to happen is that person falls out of your life so that you make room for the SP that you're actually meant to have, or that is going to actually bring you a more fulfilled and happy life. People don't like to hear this, right? So the Neville ideas are a lot more sexy and enticing to people because they're like, I'm going to get my SP to conform. My SP is going to send me a text. My SP is going to bow down and, kiss my feet. And maybe they will. But if you're coming at it with this kind of forceful approach, it's really kind of like got it flipped around. Really what you need is when you have a little bit of this, I talked about this, and maybe I'll do a full-length video on this, but there's a yin energy and a yang energy. People call this the feminine and the masculine, right? This exists throughout the universe, everywhere. And regardless of whether you are male or female, you have both of these energies. Now, when you adopt this divine feminine energy, this yin energy, that's really what this is, because you are, in a sense, entering into that receptivity surrendering to this like God source energy that flows to you. And when you're in that state, now you get the intuitive nudges, and now you can use that yang energy to be like, okay, bam, I'm doing this. Boom, I'm doing this, because you get the inspired nudges. And that's what Neville calls inspired action. But if you are in the sense with the yang energy trying to control everything, which is, you could call it the masculine energy, that might cause confusion. I'm just going to call them yin and yang. So the yang energy being like, okay, I'm going to control, I'm going to conform everybody to fit my 3D script. That can cause this inner resistance because it's too much of that yang in regards to this. What you want is the yin to, okay, I'm open to source, I'm open to my divine guidance, I'm open to receiving the next thing is to do for myself to get this or whatever it is, this or something better or the best outcome for me. And then things flow a lot more easily. And like I said, I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear this because you really, really want to get that one thing or that one person or, what have you. But the paradox is that actually, if you allow things to unfold and you don't try to get this thing to conform or these people to conform or whatever, paradoxically, you now have more influence over your reality, and you'll now be able to actually get more results because you are just open. There's just this flow and this energetic vitality about you because you are open to this source energy. And it's going to emanate out of you. It's going to make you magnetic. It's going to make your aura insanely attractive. And all those SPs, all those circumstances that you've been wanting to get to conform to you so bad will be naturally attracted to you now because you are just overflowing with this vitality, with this source, with this energy that is radiant, magnetic. And people it's an irresistible type of energy. There's so many different ways of looking at this, and a lot of the times I lean into the more practical and psychological. I'm getting a little bit more esoteric on this video because I do believe that this is true. I do believe that what I'm saying is true, and it's all a perspective thing. Do you want to look at it from more of this like esoteric, spiritual type angle, which is what I'm talking about it right now, or do you want to get into the more logical, psychology-based ideas? And I like to lean into that because it does make sense to our logical mind, and you can't shut off the logical mind. But if you can get the logical mind on board with the fact that we are these divine beings, that when we make these impressions in the 4D is the real, true, we're sending out these thoughts. We're seeing ourselves advancing. We're seeing ourselves as this person of power, this person that wields this power, this divine power, and we are using it and wielding it with responsibility in a way that we're creating the best life for ourselves and those that we care about. You really begin to allow this bit. Otherwise, you're going to have these blocks. Otherwise, this is just my belief. If you have like certain I don't know, agenda is not the right word because everybody almost always has an agenda. People like to say, oh, like this person has an agenda. But really everything, if you boil things down, like there's always an agenda going on. Our agenda is to survive. Our agenda is to thrive. Our agenda is to, at the very most basic things, have our basic needs met, food, shelter, right? But if you are trying to get this very, very specific outcome, and like I said, make this person conform or like do this thing in a certain way where it's almost like the vibration that you're putting out into the universe is like a taking vibration instead of a giving vibration. And when you operate with the giving vibration, the law of reciprocity kicks in. Like I said, people are naturally attracted to you because you genuinely want what's best for these people or what's best for this situation or, for the collective or what have you. And things have this way of just working in your favor when you operate like that. Not to say that the other way can't work. Machiavelli was extremely based in, strategy and, Sun Tzu, the art of war and all these things. And there are certain people that get what they want by, for the most part, using the logical mind. But I would actually argue that people like Napoleon and these generals that were incredibly good at strategy were also getting this divine inspiration. They were using both, right? And that's why I talk about you need the yin and the yang. You need the feminine and the masculine. And when you dial both of them up, you're receptive to that divine inspiration, but you're also using your logic and strategy to make the best decisions and really develop the skill set as well. That's another thing that people in the manifestation world just try to ignore. They're like, oh, you just imagine it. It's like, no, like you can't become a champion boxer. Go out there and find me a champion boxer who all they did was sit in their room and imagine it. You got to train, you got to develop the skill set, whatever it is that you're doing. Neville Goddard himself was, he spoke, he trained his speaking abilities. It's not like he just didn't practice these things. It's not like he just sat in a room imagining and, so anyways, anybody that's proficient in a certain skill set, if you want to be a surgeon, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be proficient in, and like Wallace D. Wattles and these other guys talk about this. That's the thing, is like Neville ignores a lot of things. And that's why I feel like you're only getting a partial explanation, or it's like, if you just follow what Neville says, you're only getting like, how like with courses and things, sometimes people will give you like a free course, but it doesn't contain like the real information that you need in order to get results with the system. It's not a full system, right? I feel like that's what you get if you follow Neville's teachings. You don't get like the real truth of the matter, which is that in order to have success with something, you're going to need to, like, even if you're a spiritually awakened yogi, or like you're just enlightened, if you're just sitting on the hill, you're not going to have success in some very specific area that you would have needed to develop that skill set. I hope that makes sense. Like, you can be the most aware, like, spiritual master that's able to manifest things. You could even be like one of those monks that's able to like have heat come out of their hands. Like, you could be this enlightened being. But if you never studied business and you don't know how to like manage your bank account, you just simply don't know how to do that, right? Like, at a certain point, you need to develop skills in the real world. And so ignoring real world skills is also just setting yourself up for this, like, living in this fantasy world where you think that you're just going to manifest things just by thinking about them. Thinking about them is vitally important, because the way that you think about them shapes the way that you show up in the 3D, in the world. But ignoring the physical world, we're here to have this human experience. So it requires both. And, to tie this all back to the self-concept thing, it's like your self-concept is also going to be emboldened and emblazoned on your path towards doing that thing. So for example, I take the YouTube example. It's a lot easier for me to imagine myself being like, yeah, I'm a successful YouTuber. I have hundreds of thousands of subscribers because I make videos. If I was simply just sitting here and putting that out, and it's also just like, it's a combination, right? It's the yin and the yang. So I get a divine idea, I get a divinely inspired idea to shoot a certain video, and then I do it. There's the yang energy, right? It's using both to your advantage. And you really need that if you want to have worldly success, if you want to be of this world. If you want to go to like an ashram and sit in a village and live in a community and just meditate all day and stuff, then you can just completely live in the feminine energy, because it's just this like amorphous, like, oh yeah, I'm just like in the flow, but you're not channeling it, right? You got to channel it in a productive manner. If you also want to just be this like hard driving entrepreneur like David Goggins, you can live in that masculine energy, but you're going to have it's going to be a lot more of a struggle than if you bring in that feminine. And you're liable to have health problems. You're liable to, you're going to be super stressed. You're liable to get burnt out by operating in that very hard yang energy all the time only, and not opening yourself up to this other side of the coin. That's why it's like both, So anyways, guys, yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes I film a video and I'm like, this is a video that's relatable. And with this video today, I don't know if this is going to be relatable to people or not, because I think a lot of people hold on very, very tightly to the ideas that Neville Goddard talks about. And I think that it leaves room for people to run into more resistance than they need to when applying this actual stuff. But with that being said, guys, I hope that this does resonate. I hope that it does hit home for some people. If not, no worries. But, this is just where I come from. This is my philosophy on the whole thing. I really do agree with a lot of the things that Neville says. I just think that personally, some of these other authors, as James Allen, Earl Nightingale, and I actually am going to probably break down some of these other teachers. The thing is just that Neville's just so much more popular than anybody else because he gives you the sexy promise of making everything conform, right? Whereas other people are it's not as like I said, it's not as sexy of a promise that these people have. They're talking about really like self-development and stuff that a lot of people talk about, like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has tons of success stories. And Tony Robbins talks about the same things that Neville talks about. He talks about states of consciousness. He talks about how to get into a better state. And he uses affirmations. He calls them incantations. And he gets great, phenomenal results with people. But he's much more practical. He's not like this manifestation, like having people conform to the 3D, which is what is a very seductive thing for people. But I really think that when you come at it from this approach, that's like this process-oriented approach, which is what Tony Robbins would come at it from. Tony Robbins also does hypnosis and hypnotherapy and things. That is what Emil Coué did. All of these people that are really big in self-help, Jim Rohn and a lot of these people, they stood on the shoulders of people people that developed NLP, like Milton Erickson, Bandler, Grinder, these people that are very big, Paul McKenna, Marissa Peers, I believe. They all get phenomenal results for their clients. They've had celebrity clients. They get paid tons of money from doing this kind of change work, belief work, and helping people become the best versions of themselves. But they do it in a more practical approach than Neville Goddard does. And so I guess that's my main message, is that we can come at it from this process-oriented approach. We don't have to come at it, because I think that what happens is that's where we encounter the resistance, is like, it has to be this way. The law is infallible, and I'm going to give my power away to this thing outside of me because this is what this guy, Neville Goddard, said, and I'm going to make him or his teachings my God. Instead of realizing that you have the power, you're going to become this thing, and you can develop a sense of certainty. That's what Wallace D. Waddell talks about, and Tony Robbins talks about it too. And if you like, I'm gonna just take some of these videos in this direction. I'm still going to talk about Neville, but I'm going to bring in some more of these practical ideas, because when you develop that sense of certainty, you will develop this sense of inevitability, that these things are going to happen. And I've even had kind of transcendent experiences where it's like I get this flash and it's like I know that this thing's going to happen. So the spiritual is there, the logical is also there, and we can use both of them to our advantage. It's just using it in a way that we don't encounter resistance. And I think that using this process-oriented approach is a way to bypass that conscious gatekeeper. It's not just that I think that. It's that everybody has thought this. Everybody knows this. The hypnotists like Emil Coué, the godfather of robotic affirming, which is autosuggestion. It's the same thing. It is hypnosis. So that's another thing, is that hypnosis gets a bad rap because of the stage hypnosis and all this stuff. But all these guys that get tons and tons of results for their clients, that's what they're doing. They're shifting your beliefs by getting you into a relaxed state akin to sleep, instructing your conscious mind, directing your internal representations, which are imaginal acts, right? These are all just different ways. Neville Goddard has one language for using these, and all these other guys have other languages. It doesn't matter the words, but they're doing the same thing. Somebody like Tony Robbins or Marissa Peers or Paul McKenna that I've mentioned, they all get phenomenal results with their clients by basically guiding them through a state akin to sleep where they now see their wish fulfilled. Like, that is what they're doing. But they just do it in more practical language. Anyways, guys, much love as always. Drop this with a like if you found this helpful. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and I might get some hate from this video, but whatever. It is what it is. I'll see you guys in the next one.